Bosnian adventures from Neum to Srebrenica. So I was away in the Balkans back in May and June, so I want to tell my story of my travel experiences there because I found it a very interesting place and it would be really cool to share it with you all here on YouTube. So yeah, I'm going to talk about Bosnia. Exploring Bosnia and Herzegovina is extremely exciting. It's especially exciting for those who have an interest in international politics, like myself. A nation of people with many ethnic affiliations is bound to have consequences. Said consequences were evident in almost all places I explored on my trip. So, crossing the border. I'm not going to say that my border crossing was smooth. Rather, it was harsh and stressful. This was not the fault of the border security from the Croats and the Bosniaks. Rather, the bus company that I was taking that took us from Dubrovnik to Mostar. It was terrible. Firstly, I arrived an hour late at the bus station, and secondly, when at the border, the bus staff started shouting at us in their language to get off the bus in an extremely rude manner. And lastly, when at Bosnian customs, the staff just pushed us into the bus without us even clearing customs or getting our passport inspected from the officials. Aside from that, the journey to Mostar was fascinating. It was evident that when passing through towns such as Neum and Kapina, that there was a strong Croat population, which is one of the three main ethnicities making up Bosnia and Herzegovina. The evidence of this was clear from the murals displayed in the old Yugoslav constructed flats, with one example displaying football support for Hajduk Split, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Football affiliations are a common way to identify with the ethnic community in them areas. The Dutch arrival into Mostar was a relief after that rough bus journey. I contacted my accommodation and headed up to the place through steep alleyways. We received a tour of the place and spoke to the Balkan host who brought up football, asking what team I support. As I don't follow football to avoid embarrassment, I said my local team as I wasn't expecting him to know Korean FC. So I said it sheepishly, whilst SpongeBob was blasting the background of the TV that he was trying to sort out for us. His straight Balkan face then changed to an eager smile, saying that Korean played Velez Mostar a few years ago. So I was really surprised by that, having a small Ulster connection in the Balkans. Mostar itself is beautiful. It means Old Bridge in Bosnian, which reflects the starry-mossed bridge in the centre of the town. The bridge was built by the Ottomans centuries ago and was easily destroyed within minutes during the conflict against the Croat forces in 1993, only being reconstructed in 2004. I had the privilege to walk across it when exploring the diverse city, along with exploring the Ottoman architecture surrounding it. The Ottoman influence in this city is prevalent in its architecture, which was first concluded by me when arriving into the city, as the skyline was flanked by minarets. However, not only was there minarets, but the cross of Christ on the towering steeple on the mountain top surrounding the town. It is clear that this city has a mix of Croat Catholics and Bosniak Muslims, and when explored on foot, this is clear with the diversity of fashion, with many females wearing hijabs and many not. This was a clear indication of their ethnic and religious affiliations. On a more moving note, I explored the Museum of War and Genocide, which I recommend everyone go to when they're in Mostar, because it's very important for the history of the country. And it takes one through the atrocities which took place in the Bosnian War in the 1990s. One image that will forever stay with me was a photo of a civilian victim of a Serbian atrocity, a pregnant female, shot in the head with her decaying body in a death pit. I could also see the deceased child in the womb. Very, very moving. Ethnic conflict is horrible, especially when civilians like this poor lady pay the price. I am satisfied with visiting this museum, as it simply has bolstered my perspective that any form of ethnic cleansing can never be justified, which is most potent today with the horrific situations happening in the Middle East. Leaving Mostar, my pals and I had a bottle of Sarajevska beer at the brutalist grey Yugoslav train station. We got our tickets, cost only 15 marks, which is like around 6 quid, 5 euros, and we were off to the Jerusalem of Europe, Sarajevo. It's known as the Jerusalem of Europe as well, because back in the era of like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, you had Catholics, you had Muslims, you had Orthodox Christians, you had Jews, massive mixture of that population all in one city, so you can certainly see it when you're over there. It's probably one of my favourite cities in Europe. It's the perfect size, not overwhelmingly large or underwhelmingly small, it is just right. Our accommodation was right in the city centre. In fact, it was right beside the bridge where Archduke Franz Ferdinand got assassinated. The spark that burnt the fuel for militarism, which started World War I in 1914. Sarajevo was rich in history, as earlier highlighted. Rich in food and rich in lifestyle. The Ottoman souks are full of coppersmiths crafting traditional coffee sets and historical antiquities, from the relics of Yugoslavia to the fascist occupation during World War II. I got myself an old Yugoslav 20,000 dinar note with a miner prideful in his work portrayed on the note itself. The food is great here as well. You can get good food for half the price you'd expect in a conventional European city like Vienna. I devoured crepes, curries, baklava, the lot, which all was savoured with a delightful Bosniak coffee. Sarajevo itself is great for exploring. It's full of culture and history in every street. The city hall had a museum dedicated to the war crime trials and the aftermaths of the conflict. On the mountain tops, a ski lift takes you up to the 1984 Winter Olympics site, which has an old abandoned concrete bobsleigh track, which is really cool to look at. Those very mountains were the site of Serb artillery and snipers during the siege of the city between 1992 and 1996, which resulted in UN intervention through airlifts in the aftermath of that conflict. It was one of the largest airlifts post the Berlin airlift around the 50s, I believe. This tension between the Serbs and Bosniaks is evident still in those mountains, because at the border of Republic Srpska, their Cyrillic root signs were graffitied, and the Latin lettering remained. The use of language and writing is clearly a subtle universal indicator of ethnic and political affiliation. That was most prevalent over there. What was also surprising about Sarajevo and Bosnia and Herzegovina itself was the influence of Iran, with a massive Iranian embassy in the city centre and a cultural visitor shop in the retail district. I guess this influence is reflective of Islamic comradeship with the Bosnians, as it was one of the few countries in Europe with a settled Islamic population. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the videos, because I will be posting a lot more videos as well about my travels and stuff. So I left Sarajevo around 7 AM to catch a bus to Srebrenica, which is in the Republic Srpska. So that's one of the political entities that make up Bosnia and Herzegovina itself. So you have Republic Srpska, which is one devolved entity. Then the second devolved entity is the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which represents the Bosniak and Croat population of the country, since it's a divided society. This system all came into place in 1995 with the Dayton Accords, all in an effort to keep the peace. The political system seems to be doing an excellent job, especially when you think of how safe and peaceful I thought the country was when visiting there. The bus station was in the Serb part of Sarajevo. Almost felt a cultural change instantly, with Serb flags on display, and the toilet attendant that I entered felt like a relic from a time long ago. The tram also felt like a time machine, because I got a tram from the Bosnian part into the Serb part, and you definitely felt the transition when going between the two parts. Turbo blasted from the speakers of the minivan as we trailed past the Welcome to Republic Srpska sign through the Bosnian hills, with the old Serbian babushka passengers santering about what I can imagine is Balkan politics by the way they were complaining and shouting. You can tell by their tone. We passed by Serb towns and Serbian war graves till I reached my destination of Srebrenica. I had to announce to the friendly bus driver that I had to get off because it wasn't an official stop. He gave me some advice to get from the Srebrenica Memorial to Serbia because it's like a 15-minute walk to the border. There were plenty of tour groups at the Srebrenica Memorial. I decided to walk around the perimeter to take the memorial all in, as literally thousands of headstones, 8,000 in total, were there as a result of the 1995 Serb atrocity led by Mladic. Despite UN efforts to prevent ethnic cleansing, they would shoot mostly men and children into these graves outside the town, which is not nice at all. Headstone after headstone, I pondered around looking at many family names wiped out, and I sadly passed by family members paying respects to their loved ones. It was a very recent conflict, so I actually saw family members paying respects, so it's strange to say because of how recent such an atrocity was in Europe. I was extremely thirsty as well. Needed to get some water before hunting for a ride to the town of Srebrenica to get into Serbia. So I asked the lady at the store how to get there. Got directions off her and walked down the main road to head to Srebrenica. Also noticed a few police cars around the perimeter of the memorial to probably protect the memorial site from Serbs or whoever wants to commit an offence in that area. Walking to Srebrenica from Srebrenica was interesting. As just leaving an area sacred to the Bosnians, I was now walking past predominantly Serbian households with Republican Srpska flags in full display. The contrast of identity in this country is incredible. I bumped into a few locals saying Dobry Dien as I walked past as a friendly courtesy, and the first thing I noticed on the billboard when I'm entering into Srebrenica is a big massive picture of their president Dodik, as he was the main man back then. I believe he's not in leadership anymore. I attempted to change my Bosnian marks into Serbian dinars to get myself ready for the border crossing. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anywhere to exchange. I asked a few banks to no avail. That said, everyone was very friendly and loved the fact that I was a tourist. The town was nice, and it was a great insight into the Serb people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia is probably one of the best countries I've explored in Europe. It's most definitely underrated. The scenery is amazing, and the people, whether Bosnian or Serb, were extremely lovely and hospitable, despite the fact that only 30 years ago they were fighting amongst each other. The people have made so much effort to move on from the conflict in the past. However, it's clear that the society is still deeply divided. As a student studying politics at my university, I found it hugely rewarding and educational. I couldn't recommend it for even if you don't even study politics. I really recommend going there. It's really rich in culture and a good